Hi, I'm Ellie McGuire, and this is a Shaking the Bushes podcast. Today's guest is, what's your name again?
Jimmy Fallon.
Anyway, he's an author. He's a host of a local talk show. He is brilliant. He's a Metallica fan. He's a hair freak. Why should you even watch?
My name is Brendan Kirby, and I wouldn't watch or listen.
Brendan Kirby.
Ellie, calm down. We need the studio audience to please calm down. They're all crammed into the kitchen. They're sitting on the counters. They're ready to go nuts. We got to get to the questions, though. How are you? Thank you for having me.
No, I'm so thrilled to have you at the kitchen table of my childhood home.
Are we sure that you actually grew up in this home? Is there anyone who can corroborate this? Is there paperwork?
You know, I have to say, where you're sitting, my dad used to sit there every day while I was here since 4 years old, eating Cheerios. He was there in a T-shirt and boxer shorts, smoking a marble.
Of course. Maybe I should light one up just for the heck of it.
Oh, you would make me feel so much better.
And I don't mind stripping down in my boxers either.
Well, I wouldn't mind it either.
I think the viewers might, but I got to tell you, this is such a fun idea. The podcast in the kitchen. How fun is this?
But where do you always go in anybody's home?
Right.
You go to the kitchen table. Everything's in the kitchen. And so to me, it was a natural. I'm thinking, you know, I talk to my friends at the kitchen table.
Right.
This has history.
It does. People gather around. The kitchen is where it all goes down, if you will. And I've got to apologize to you before we get started here. So it's right now, it's like a Thursday afternoon. We're in the 2 p.m. hour, if you will. Pulling back the old kitchen curtain here, right? And I had the road show this morning, live from 9 to 10 a.m.
You are. And just for the listeners, all the shakers out there.
WPRI 12.
Yep. Co-host with Will and Audrey.
Are those their names?
I know, you forgot, right?
Yeah. Yes, every weekday.
And it's a great show.
Thank you. So I had that show this morning, and now I have this one here this afternoon. So this is one of those very rare days, Ellie, where I have the opportunity to ruin two broadcasts in the same calendar day. Now, normally in the afternoon, by this time in the afternoon, Ellie, I'm getting like a deep tissue massage with a daiquiri in hand.
I knew that.
So if my energy level seems off, it's because usually I'm in power down. You know, you have a routine that you go through, right? And usually I'm powering down in the afternoon, but I'm delighted to be here with you.
And in the Brendan Kirby vernacular,
Yes.
I'll try not to rub you the wrong way. Bada-boom.
Please do.
I know that you're a punster.
I love jokes.
You know, I started, of course, I'm a fabulous host that does research. It's important to know your guest, right?
Definitely.
So here I am thinking about all the things, and I'm going through your Facebook and your YouTube and everything, and I'm like, I think you're my doppelganger.
We are so similar, it's scary. I mean, it is like looking in a mirror.
Well, I don't know if I look exactly like you, considering the fact that I did go to school with your mother.
Can you imagine?
So I'm a little bit older, but I started to go down the list, and I'm like, first of all, you went to LaSalle, of course. I don't think they let girls go to LaSalle when I was a kid. But then we both went to Rhode Island College.
Yeah.
But here's where it separates.
Okay.
You flippin' were an intern for David Letterman.
I was.
What did I miss at Rhode Island College?
Was he on the air yet when you were?
I don't know, but why are you bringing that up,
Well,
Brendan?
you-
Thanks a lot.
You got the ball rolling. You know, it's funny you would say that. I have such a love of broadcasting. And what is so fascinating about, you know, we joke about how we're sitting here in your kitchen with the microphones and the lighting. And once we wake up Ron here behind the camera, I'm sure he'll agree. But it is interesting to see how it has all morphed and evolved. At the core of shows, whether it's a TV show in the 70s or the 80s or the 90s, or it's a podcast now, the essence of it is good conversation, good entertainment, creativity.
Exactly.
And I know you love that stuff. And I was always drawn to Letterman early. I loved how funny he was. He's one of my comedic heroes.
I have a crush on him. Even with the beard, I have a crush on him. By the way, just to interrupt, somebody came up to me and they were talking. He was on my show, and he told me beforehand he was at the Jamestown bar, some bar in Jamestown, and there's a guy sitting next to him, and he having a little conversation.
Yeah.
He goes, the other guy goes to the bathroom, and the bartender leans over and says, "You know who that is?" And of course, Steve McGinnis, I'll name his name.
Oh, wow.
Your mother was in his class, I bet you, at
Oh,
St.
my
Peter's
goodness.
School. He said, "No, I don't know who that is." It was flipping David Letterman.
You're kidding.
With the full beard. I was like, I'm going down there right now. I'm going to hang out at that bar for the rest of my life.
I understand Letterman's here locked in the basement.
If I had my way.
Well, I was such a big fan of his, and when I was younger, I was discovering all the late night talk shows.
Sure.
And I knew early on that I loved comedy, and I loved that show so much. My great aunt loved Dave. My Uncle Joe and Susie lived in the Midwest. They lived in Chicago for like 30 years, and they'd come to visit a few times every year, and my Aunt Susie would always watch Dave, and I would always watch him with her, and I just fell in love with the show, how witty he was, how creative he was, and I just said, I want to do something in showbiz. Well, I mean, I want to be the host of a show, but at that time, their options were, they weren't plentiful like they are now. You couldn't set up.
But did anyone ever say that was possible? In my day, I could be a teacher or a nurse. That was being a woman.
Sure.
And I was class clown in my senior year of high school.
I'm shocked. Well, it's interesting you say that, because really the only avenue at that time within broadcasting was there was television and there was radio. But if you wanted to be on TV, it was, are you going to be the weatherman or the sports guy or the news guy? And of the three of those, sports was really the only one that I could see myself doing.
Right.
I never wanted to be a newsman. I never wanted to tell people. The people that do that are remarkably talented, don't get me wrong, and we need the weather, of course. But at the time,
good cover.
Right, well, they are. They do what they do in their own way. But I knew I wanted to do something light. At the time, sports was the lightest of the options. So I was going to go into sports broadcasting. I knew I wanted to work in TV, but then I thought, I kind of have a pretty good sense of humor, and I like writing, and I like performing, and I'm always coming up with ideas. The curse
Plus,
of being
you got
creative.
the pipes, baby.
Well,
I mean,
thank
I've
you,
had this
Ellie.
voice since I was 4 years old, so there you go. But it wasn't as cool for a woman, but you do.
Right. So I thought, well, maybe I could be a writer on Letterman or Conan. I like Conan as well, but Letterman was my favorite. And I found myself able to write jokes from an early age. I would watch Letterman, and I whatever was happening in the news, I would look at the paper way back when, and I'd see what was happening, and I would start to think of my own jokes. And then invariably, many times, something I thought of would be in one of the monologues that night. So I knew I was on the right track.
Right.
And then I started to tape Letterman on the old VCR, and I would.
Hey, I go even farther back than that. I've got so many stories. Oh my
I would
God,
watch
keep
it
going.
later, and when he would get to the top 10, I'd stop the tape, and I would see if I could come up with my own top 10 jokes, and then I would play it, and sometimes I would have thought of the same joke, and I thought, okay, I'm kind of onto something here. So I thought, if I can't be in front of the camera being funny, and I knew I didn't want to be a stand-up comedian, even though I have done some live performance, I thought maybe I could be a writer for a show like that. So I interned there. I was majoring in communications at Rick.
But what was tell the audience, did you just open your mouth and say, I want to be an intern? Like, you're at Rhode Island College, no offense, but it's not Yale, a drama club,
It's not? Well, I remember I thought, well, I'm in the communications program. I know Rhode Island is small, but I just said, I went on, the website at the time, and I saw that they accepted interns every semester, and I just submitted, and I had some pretty good stuff on my resume already.
Yeah.
I had interned at WPRI 12 in the sports department.
Right.
I was, a valet at the Foxy Lady.
Uh-oh.
No. But I had the TV thing on the resume already.
Which is great, may I say, from my old school point of view. That's the key. The phone, I heard someone say, I sent 200 resumes the other day over, fax. I almost said fax, but, however you send them nowadays, that's not going to get it. You already were doing
I had
things.
some stuff on there, which I thought was credible. And it was during my time as a valet at the Foxy when I met Ron, I think. That was,
He keeps coming back to that Foxy Lady.
I'm just being stupid because that's what I love. But I fired off my resume and a cover letter at the time. And next thing I know, I was going to New York City for my interview. And I was so excited because I had been to see tapings of the show before.
Right.
Now I'm getting to go upstairs and into the offices and be interviewed.
Did you ever like rub shoulders and meet them and do things?
Well, once I got the job, I was there for like a semester from like January through June or whatever. And I worked in the talent department. So anything guest related, I got to meet all kinds of celebrities.
Excuse
It was
me,
amazing.
I have a dog.
We're being growled at. It was only a
dog
matter of
interrupted.
time.
She's kind of, her eyesight's going, so I have to direct her to her bed. But okay, it's a dog's house and we just live in it, But anyway, I have two, by the way, for those listening and not watching the podcast, I have one of my Yorkshire Terriers, Pudge, on my lap as Schmitty the weather dog is making her bed down there. So I just thought you'd know that sometimes when you see me pop in and out, it's okay.
This might be the first time I've done an interview with the stench of urine in the air.
I'm sorry. The wee-wee pad was clean before you came.
Actually, I was the one who urinated.
Oh, oh my God. Okay, I just have to, you know what? I worked at WPRO.
I've heard.
And one of the things that's interesting is that when I left to go work in Boston, my boss, Aaron Daniels, had his son and his friend come intern. His son's name is Greg Daniels. Have you heard it?
Yeah. I know the name.
And Conan O'Brien was his friend. Yeah. They interned the Bristol Parade. Like, I think they helped intern at the Bristol Parade.
I've heard this story.
Is that the funniest thing?
It's
so
great.
Rhode Island is great. It really has. It's a hidden gem,
Yes, absolutely.
And now I'm going to say VCR. I wrote these down in my notes for those of you listening. VCR. I had a VCR, and you know what? My most famous VCR went sailing down to the Bahamas, cut to the chase, met a guy named Dan Rowan, if you know Laugh-In, if you've ever heard of Laugh-In. He was the host. You would have loved him. And I used to sit in his house I lived in his house for a couple of months with him and his girlfriend. And we met on a boat. That's the whole thing. But the point was, we'd watch reruns of Laugh-In and The Gong Show on this thing called 1978, folks. A VCR. I was like in awe. Okay, go back to yours.
No,
so now
great.
you're in Letterman.
Yeah, I mean, I just worked on the show for that semester. I got college credit for it, and I couldn't believe I was working there. I loved everything about it. The excitement, the live feel of it. It was taped earlier.
Sure.
We taped them earlier in the day. The energy of the crowd, the band,
Did you
the
get
excitement.
a picture?
Oh, yeah, I have a picture
Oh,
with Dave.
good. Okay, good.
Yeah, it's funny that...
No, I know they hate that crap and everything. Although if I was an intern, I think he would have fallen in love with me. I dreamed that once, that he picked me out of a crowd, and then I had to break it to run.
Bounced out on day one.
But do you remember that affair he did have? But that's another whole story.
Well, I just really, I took so much away from the experience because I said, I want to absorb this. Yes, it's my favorite show, but I want to make a contribution here. I want to learn the ins and outs. I want to see how this is done and make some good contacts. And it was just an incredible experience. And it kind of set me on the right path for everything that I've done subsequently.
Well, and you've done it. I mean, okay, so people have dreams, and even, if they do what they like, it's not even work.
Right.
But every day, I'm not a morning person, but you get up, you do the road show, and it's a different show. Maybe there's things in the horizon that might be different, but it's such a good show because you're out there, you're entertaining, and you've got a steady J-O-B while you do things like this podcast, the Shaking the Bushes podcast with your host, Ellie McGuire. So that's the whole thing that I think is so incredible, is that you're working it. And then you're still talking to the people in LA about, Ella McRae movie that was filmed here in Rhode Island, or you're doing this, or you're doing that. So that's great. But I had to write cards. Do you notice the backs? If for those just viewing, I cut one of my flyers, and it's on the back of the note cards. Everybody notices. Because
there really aren't enough pictures of you around the house.
No, there's not. And, Alex Cooper, who I hope to be someday, except I'm not raunchy. That's the only thing. But Alex Cooper, she's got the big cards with the Alex Cooper, the call me daddy on the back. Well, I've got Shaking the Bushes on the back. And then on the cups, you might describe part of that same flyers on the cups, because we haven't yet ordered mugs. And as you said, I think at one time, because you had a show called Wicked Late, and you're always saying, we say it's not low budget, it's no
I
budget.
know the feeling. Yes, I get it. But I think there's a beauty in the simplicity and in the authenticity of doing what you love.
Absolutely. In fact, one other thing is when we were living in LA, and I know you lived in LA, we could be here for hours. I had met Fred Willard in Nantucket of all things, and then he remembered me in LA, and we started doing improv shows with Fred Willard.
Wow.
Do you remember
I do.
Fernwood Tonight? It turned into America Tonight, and it was with Martin Mull,
Whoa.
and it was in lawn chairs,
Yep.
and the guest. It was hysterical, and I always think of you because to me that's Brendan Kirby. It's like the crazy show where you're almost serious, but everybody knows it's just a cut up, you know?
You have to. I don't know what it is. I love that, and I've loved laughing since I was young, even before I realized I could kind of do it, or maybe get my own pity laughs. No, I can't resist.
Notice I'm laughing.
Putting myself down. I did love comedy even before I realized that maybe I could do some variation of it in my
Right.
professional life. I just loved laughing when I was a little kid, and I think it started there.
Well, I just think they're so lucky on the road show because you do. Everyone has their own personality, but I'm like the zingers you throw out, and you're very self-deprecating. And I was wondering, that was something we should talk about.
Sure.
What is it about people in comedy that like are self-deprecating? I caught one the other day that you said, "Oh, that cooking segment." You know, you were doing a segue, and you said that name of that dinner was jerky chicken, which was named after me. And I thought, there you go.
Oh, that was today. Yeah. The guy in the,
Oh, was it
the
today?
kitchen chef made Caribbean jerk chicken, and Will was wrapping up and they threw it over to me. And I said, jerk chicken was named after me. And then I just went,
But what is it about comedians?
I don't
and
know.
they even say like Seinfeld and all those people, they all have like maybe issues, you know?
Well, I think Letterman's great at self-deprecating
Oh,
humor.
huge.
Conan O'Brien is amazing at it. And I think what it is I don't know. That's excellent question. I
Thank you
very
very
rarely
much.
get asked about that. Most of the time it's, oh, stop putting yourself down. Stop it. And it's almost
No.
like, do I really have to tell you what this is? But some people don't understand that, and that's okay. I think what it is I love humor and getting laughs so much and just joking around. It's an easy way. This is from my perspective. Just get a quick it kind of levels the playing field right away, so to speak. You just get a quick laugh, and now we're all just kind of having fun. I don't really think that I'm horrible or awful or a jerk. I just do it because it's a cheap, easy, quick laugh. That's all it is.
I think that's part of it, but I also think that it
All right, Ellie, I hate myself. All right? I'll be in the basement.
my dogs are like, oh my God, they've
Sorry,
got their
I
ears
know.
over their paws. No, their paws over their ears. Sorry. No, I think what it is, as well as maybe things in your, that in your life, and you're feeding off of that. That's one thing. And number two, I just think that comedy, when you're self-deprecating, it cuts it down to, oh, he doesn't think he's so great. Like my biggest fear is I don't want people to think, oh, like I'm flipping my hair right now, oh, she
Yeah.
has a podcast. I'm in my freaking kitchen, but still you do a podcast. And there's something about, I've gone through this all my life where
Yeah.
Ron and I did 3 TV pilots, one which aired in DC,
Right.
but 3 of them. And I swear the thing that brings you down in those kind of things is the people who are looking at you going, what
Yeah.
makes you think you could do that?
You've absolutely.
And that's so debilitating to me because
it's-
I'm so sensitive.
It's-
Hey, I'm sensitive, Brendan.
When's your birthday?
October.
All right.
When are you?
I'm July. I'm a sensitive Cancer.
Oh, I'm a balanced
There you
Libra.
go. Well, you are spot on with that. A lot of time, I never want anyone to think that
Right.
I think because I just don't. I'm very humble. I'm very appreciative of what
Me
I have.
too.
I just love being on. I
Right.
love presenting a show. I love putting my ideas down and then executing them. I like putting my head down and doing the work. There's nothing I love more, Ellie, and I'm sure you can relate to this, than when I have just a killer idea and I don't broadcast it. I just put my head down and I do the work. And then before you know it, it's time to unleash this thing onto the show that I've been working on.
Right.
No one knows it's coming. And I get up that day and I'm so excited because I know I've put the work in.
Right.
And we've got something amazing to put out there. I like the work. I just want to entertain everyone. I identify with what you said. I never want anyone, and I think it
I'm
kind of
very
levels the playing
concerned.
field, like you just said.
Very, very
and it's a great way to
concerned.
get a quick laugh. And who doesn't love a laugh?
But
right?
it also it kind of diffuses the situation.
I
How's
think
that?
so.
You know, like Ron? I learned so much. He's been entertaining for years and years and years, and for gazillion years, as a matter of fact. But anyway, I remember once I heard him, and he gets up there. It was a thing in D.C. and there were 1,000 women at 10 tops, you know, all around this huge room in the Mayflower. And I'm up in the balcony going, and this piano looked like a toy.
Yeah.
And I thought, he's not going to be able to, he's never failed, but this one, he's not going to. I hated to think that. But then all of a sudden, he loves the strain of that beginning where it's so awkward.
Yeah.
And he asks somebody to tell something about themselves. He shares, he breaks the ice. And then the waiters who thought, oh, it's a bunch of women, they're going to be out of here soon.
Yeah.
Midnight, they're still, you know, going around, you know, flipping their towels and going nuts and everything. And so that's the key. I don't like the beginning of anything, but once
you
I'm
get
warmed
in there,
up,
yeah.
you know, and again, you know, I don't know if we haven't seen each other. Maybe we have, but we took this cruise with, we were invited to be guests for the Bushes on a private yacht with George and Barbara Bush. Did you know that?
I did not.
And Ron, it was supposed to be, he was going to play maybe 1 or 2 nights. He ended up playing every night because I loved him so much. But I got up and did an Alan Sherman song or something. They'd fall on the floor and they'd be like, oh my God. But he had warmed them up.
Yeah.
I cannot warm that first instant makes me cringe. I'm throwing up in the bathroom, but then I'm into it. And it was so good that they invited us back for another week. But
Beautiful.
That's another story.
I understand we have footage of you vomiting in the bathroom. Let's
yes,
cut to that
we
right
do.
now. We'll be right back.
But okay, back to PRO.
When you heard I was coming here, you vomited.
I know. Well, you peed in my dog's paper. So even Steven. Oh no, it's Brendan. Okay.
Yes.
But though the bottom line is, where were we on that? Oh, I don't know. Keep going.
Well, we were just about ready to change
I
the
know.
pee pads.
Yes, that's true. Podcasts.
Yeah.
I think it's so funny. Don't you find that the media changed? I worked in radio. You're working in TV.
Yeah.
To me, when someone first said podcast, I went,
Right.
wait a minute. Isn't that just a radio show in your own home or in your studio? Like, it was just little radio stations.
I think it kind of originated when the Apple iPod was the thing, and the show could just
interesting.
be put in there, and it was like, oh, here's this thing I'm listening to via Apple, and I don't know if they originated the term, but that's when I first heard it, like a talk show within your iPod, like you could download. I could be way off. I don't know.
And you didn't think this was an information podcast. Please, listeners.
Well, it's clearly not
learn.
entertaining.
But so the podcast came from there.
I
Wow.
think so. I don't know. I just remember it's really become the new medium, as you know. And I remember I was being interviewed by a friend of mine maybe a decade ago. He had gone back to school for some graduate degree, and he was taking a media class. And at the time, I was already on the road show. I had already been in the media field for over a decade, because it's now about 20 years I've been doing this.
You're
which seems
showing your
impossible.
age. Okay, go on.
I'm 85. And I remember he was asking me about the changing face of media. And again, this is 2015 now. This is a decade
Right.
ago. And I remember saying to him, I remember my exact words. I said, content will always be king. It's just the method by which we receive it. So it's all about the content still.
It really
it's just,
is.
You're just getting it in different
really
ways.
is.
From
And
VCR to TV to radio to this. It's just
I
people
still
wanna
say
watch
that about
stuff.
AI. I
Yeah.
said because I wrote a memoir, and if you know a publisher, but anyway, no. And it's called Shaking the Bushes, which is about our journey with the Bushes and then what happened afterwards, which made me go and investigate my own life, blah, 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 blah. But the bottom line is that, people you were doing public access.
Sure. Well, that's because, you know what it is? I like to say, Ellie, everyone is a product of their time. If I was starting now, I would do something different. But at that time, there was no podcast yet. YouTube wasn't a thing yet. You had to go down to the TV studio and do your own thing. So that's what I did.
But I was always a little ahead of time. So we're doing public access in LA.
Yeah.
And I remember our first guest, ready for this?
Oh, tell me.
Monty Hall.
Wow.
Yeah, well, he was a friend of an older couple.
That's pretty good.
Ron and I had done all these crystal cruise ships. We went all around the world while we were living in LA. It was crazy. And back then, being on a cruise ship, entertaining was like, oh, you don't put that on your resume. Now it's like a huge huge thing. Everything changes. So I
Yes.
always feel like I'm a little ahead of the curve. So Monty Hall, we did this. And I remember I just found a note he wrote and said, Ellie, I heard from friends who had been on a cruise with you. You guys are great. And now you're doing this access. Let's talk.
Yeah.
Do you know I never called him to talk? Holy moly. I'm like self-deprecating myself to death here.
Oh, man.
And
Yeah.
I can't remember.
You got to jump on the chances, and
I've
it's
had
but it's hard.
so many chances.
Your day to day going about those.
Yeah.
things.
So podcast, AI. I don't think that they can't steal my memoir, and they can't steal Brendan Kirby's personality.
Why would they want that?
But so I have my cards here. All right. So then you did Wicked Late, which is the best name for Rhode
Thanks.
Island. For those of you listening, all my friends in New York or wherever you are, Wicked is such a famous word in Rhode Island.
I remember when I was because my feeling was, Ellie, I loved comedy and I loved TV and late night talk shows so much. When I came back from Letterman, I still had another semester at Rhode Island College, and I pitched to my professor at the time an independent study project where I could create my own show and get credit. So I did the show, and I was like, I need a name for it, and a buddy of mine kind of kicked it around, and Wicked Late was what I landed on, and it was a good, solid name, and I'm really proud of that show. And a lot of times you see, I don't even know if anyone's really doing public access anymore as much.
It was really brilliant at the time.
Thanks, yeah, and I really put a lot of time into it, and I thought this is not just going to be me in front of like a blue curtain, although we did have one.
No, you had a nice little fern in back of it.
I was the OG between two ferns, I like to say.
Yeah, exactly.
But I remember saying, I'm not going to be someone who goes out there unprepared. I'm not going to be like, something. Look, everything gets made fun of. Who cares? But I'm not like if it's going to be made, let them. But I'm at least going to do something that I'm proud of. I'm not going to phone it in here. I'm going to go all in.
It's so much work and people don't appreciate it.
No.
I was watching on YouTube, which I'm just starting to watch on my TV because I'm a boomer. But anyway, Alex Cooper, I'm watching, Amy Poehler. I'm trying to learn from the best.
Sure.
And I go by and there's a person who's probably a starter, a starter podcast.
Yeah.
The lighting was horrible. The sound was atrocious. It was a 2-screen. It was embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
You can't put yourself out there. I tend to be, and I don't know, I think another thing we have in common, my doppelganger, is that the word? Doppelganger, Brendan, is that hair, makeup, whatever, all of that stuff, all the things people don't think about is so important.
Yeah, and I knew that if I put the time in and did it right, it would be my vision that I was executing, and that's all I've ever really wanted. And I knew by doing the Wicked Late program, which I did, the idea behind that, Ellie, was I said, okay, I had just gotten out of college. It was my last semester, and I got the credit I needed for the show. And I thought I really enjoyed doing that, writing it, performing it, booking it.
Loved you.
I said I'm going to come back and I'm going to do another show. And it was on every month for 8.5 years.
That's fabulous.
But I knew that my point.
So you were ahead of your time a little bit too.
I like to be behind the times. I felt like I could, if I did it enough. Have you heard the expression about putting in your 10,000 hours?
Absolutely.
Right.
They say if you keep doing it and doing it
Right.
and doing it,
And I thought that if and when the opportunity presented itself, I would be ready because I would have this experience, on my resume, and I'd have video proof that I booked local celebrities. I interviewed them. I wrote my own original content and material. I produced it. I researched it. I knew how to make a show from being at Letterman, from interning at PR. I know how to do it. I knew it then. So if and when the time was right, and then eventually the road show, I auditioned for it and I got it. And they knew they were getting someone who knew how to do this.
Absolutely.
And I
Oh,
feel
you could have been bowling every night, or you could have been sitting on your couch watching. That's one thing that my mom taught me. R.I.P. Mom.
How to bowl?
Yeah, no, and how to bowl. We did that. We did all that stuff. We didn't have phones. We did bowling. We had to do things, right? But I always couldn't sit in front of the TV and just sit. I had to do needlepoint or doing something. So that's always been part of my ilk, is that I should be doing something. So I'm writing or I'm doing,
Working on an idea.
And so people out there, if you're listening, please, I just think that just do it. Stephen King, he has a great book on writing.
I'm sorry, I don't know the name.
Stephen King. Oh, God, I actually fell into that. Oh my God, he got me. Good for you.
I'm just a buffoon.
Oh my God, I haven't been with
But what
you
did
in a
he
while.
say? What did he say?
But he said, thank you for getting me back on track. He said that, when you're stuck about writing, just sit down and write. Like, it's not a thing where, people, and you can tend to do that. Oh, I want to plan, and I can't do it because it's not going to be perfect. I have that problem sometimes, perfectionism.
It's tough.
I want to be perfect because I don't want to make a fool of myself. But on the same hand, making a fool of yourself, how many people have gone viral because they're making a stupid, everything's just crazy. But you know what I think podcasts did? For me, anyway, I worked in corporate America for a long time.
Sure.
I was in sports. I worked for the Bullets basketball. I'm dating myself now, the Wizards now.
Yeah.
They changed the name from Bullets to Wizard. You go tell me.
Remember the joke at the time that I remember Jay Leno on The Tonight Show said, well, they're going to change the name of the Washington basketball team because they feel it's too violent.
Right.
So now they're going to be known as just the Bullets. Washington was so violent at the time. I always thought that was a great monologue joke.
But I think the Wizards, that's kind of a...
I didn't know you worked there.
Oh, cool. I worked for, 10 years. I worked in...
what years were you there?
The 80s. I have a great picture of me and Manute Bol.
Did you see Michael Jordan live?
Oh, absolutely, all the time. And you know what? Someone told me, I remember sitting there watching him, and remember, my office was right on the other side of the walkway in the arena.
US Air Arena in Landover.
In Landover. I worked for Abe Poland, exactly.
Yes.
And so anyway, I remember him saying, see, Michael Jordan, every minute, I think he was making $60,000 every minute. It was just crazy.
Do you remember a guy by the name of Robin Ficker who would sit behind the Bullets opponent's bench and
he was a crazy man.
Yeah.
But he was a great crazy man.
He would scream at Michael Jordan and taunt him.
Wow, you are into sports.
I know a lot of useless information. I love Michael Jordan.
Well, I had one year, my teams, which didn't go to the playoffs, but if it did, my commercials would have run and I would have cha-ching, cha-ching, but that didn't happen. But anyway, Manute Bol, I had Muggsy Bogues and Manute Bol on the same team. The shortest guy and the tallest guy.
Yes.
It was crazy. So I did sports. So I did corporate, and then I went to LA. We did a bunch of stuff there, living the dream. Sure. And then came back to be closer to my mom, who was starting to get ill. But I got a job at Radio Disney in New York.
Wow.
And then I went somewhere else, and then I just saw the light because I'm sitting in an office and it wasn't me.
Right.
And I think podcasts, what it does is you could be your own boss.
Definitely.
So I think if anything, it's kind of crazy and everybody jumps on it. But 90% of the people who do it probably fall out of, it doesn't last. Don't stick around with you and I.
Well, you know, it's interesting you say that because there is this notion, and I find it rather abhorrent at times. I had to work so hard to get what I have now. And then anyone can kind of just, if you have an internet connection, have a show. And that's okay. And like I said earlier, I don't disparage anyone for being a product of their time. I get, like I said, if I was starting now, I probably wouldn't have gone the traditional route. No. But you have been in the trenches. You understand that. But sometimes I'll meet someone who's 25. Well, I have my own show. And that's great. And I hope they stick with it. But the difference is, I like to say, are you going to hang in there and stick with it? I think that kind of separates the pretenders from the realists, if you will. Are you going to stick with or maybe you find that it's not for you, and that's fair too. But I have been on my fair share of shows, people who invited me on, and then it's like, oh, well, what happened to that? And they maybe it wasn't for them, but they didn't realize all that it takes. It
takes so much. And let me tell you, I don't know if you know this or not, and you might hang around with me more, but I've been campaigning Lorne Michaels, who lives around the corner from me in my apartment in New York City, because as people know, I write about New York City and being here in the smallest state and the biggest state, in the biggest city. But Lorne Michaels, and in my Dan Rowan time, I found out by doing some silly reading late at night that Lorne Michaels got his start writing for laughing. So the guy I knew, Dan Rowan, was his boss. And Dan used to say, Ellie, I'll call anybody. And I was like, I was stupid. But anyway, now I'm campaigning Lorne Michaels because you only get an audition if you have a recommendation letter. Okay. So I have a recommendation letter from his old boss.
Absolutely.
So I've been doing these videos. And let me tell you, the work involved to do these videos, I'm running down Narragansett Parkway. I'm swimming in a neighbor's pool. I'm doing all these crazy things. But the work it takes. And then I go to somebody who's followed me or something, and it was someone I knew, and I was like, oh, and I just wanted to investigate. There's a video, there's a video there, and it was someone cutting soap. and they got like 7.1 million views, and I struggled to get like a couple of thousand
Wow,
views.
I understand
And it's
that.
like, where is the fairness? Like, I
Oh, it's-
really put all my all in it.
There
I
is-
mean, I don't know if you noticed, but I even got my hair done today
Looks
for you.
great.
Thank you very much. If you're listening and not watching, you can also hear Ron having a coughing fit in the back, but that's because we're in my kitchen.
No, I know.
My
I'm
dogs
concerned
are
about Ron,
sleeping.
that he's going to keel over.
Yeah, I know. Well, he is young, but anyway. Okay, now, I mean, this is just so much fun. I feel like this is part 2. But Cookbook by Brendan and Julie Tremaine.
Oh, yeah.
The Seinfeld Cookbook. You are just killing me with it. I read that. I read about it or heard about it a couple of years ago and sent you a note, and I was like, you've got to be kidding. You
know.
are doing what you love.
It's remarkable. Sometimes I sit back. It's very easy to get lost in the doldrums of every day.
Right.
You think, oh, I'm not doing what I should be doing, or I haven't made it to where I think I should be. But then sometimes you step back and think about everything you've done, and it all becomes crystal clear, and you kind of need to give yourself a little bit of credit. So I've been trying to do more of that lately because I am so appreciative. And one of the things I am insanely proud of is the Seinfeld Cookbook.
Wow.
It's official. It's licensed by Jerry. My friend
Ron, you have
Julie
water.
Tremaine
Ron, you got water in the back there.
Do we have lozenges in the
Ron,
green
okay?
room
Yeah,
for
I know,
Ron?
I know.
I'm worried about him.
I know, huh?
Is he going to be all right?
Oh my God. That happened to me once. Somebody's perfume made me go nuts when I started coughing. But anyway,
good.
we'll keep going. If
If
he
you hear a
kills,
thud, it means
but that's
Ron
okay.
went
But
down.
the show must go on, Brendan.
God,
Oh my God.
So my friend Julie Tremaine,
Yeah.
whom I met during my time at the Roadshow,
Right.
She's a terrific writer, supremely talented, full-time writer right now. She used to be the editor of Providence Monthly when I first met her.
Oh.
She does great work, and
They called her though. I was jealous about that. Hello, Julie May. We want to do a cookbook, and
well, it's not that.
well, you did an article for Salve Regina College, and that was what came out. And I was like,
Okay.
"Oh, I'm
Jeez.
so jealous."
Well, she had reached out to me, and she had said, "Hey, because she had co-authored other culinary,
I see.
pop culture culinary cookbooks, if you will." And a publisher approached her to do this, and she knew through our interactions on the Roadshow, through our friendship, through our professional connections, she knew what a massive Seinfeld fan I was. So Letterman, Seinfeld, those are like my favorite things comedically, Conan. And when she came to me with this, I said, am I, being punked here? What's going on? Is this for real? Jerry has signed off on this. It's legitimate. She said, yeah. And I don't invoke this to bring it down, but I just lost my father, whom
yes,
you
I
knew
know.
at that time.
I knew your father well.
Yes. And it was like a week,
Right.
the week after, and your world is rocked, your head is
Yes.
spinning. Julie knew what I was dealing with. She goes, but I have to talk to you. I think you're gonna like this. And I thought, I can't do this right now. My world is over,
Right.
and I just could hear my father's voice. You take that job.
You absolutely.
You write that damn book.
You absolutely.
And more importantly, you cash that damn check. You knew my father. That's how he spoke.
Yes.
And, because I'm all about the
loved your
work.
father.
And we put our heads down and we co-authored this incredible cookbook. And it's all Seinfeld themed. I'm really proud of it.
I would hold it up, but here's the key about podcasts too. They say
should've
80%.
brought one, I'm sorry.
No, but 80% of people are still listening.
Yeah.
And 20% they're getting on YouTube. That's
Well-
why all the biggies are doing YouTube now,
Sure.
because it's more people that can view or listen and they get to meet you. But so holding up the book would have probably been not, we wouldn't have missed too much. But it's fabulous. It's just a great book.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm super proud of it.
And I do want your autograph.
It's not worth anything. But you're welcome to it. And then the coup de grace, if you will, poor choice of words, we got invited to go on the Drew Barrymore show to promote
I
it.
know. How
And
wonderful is
amazing.
that?
And
But you
she-
put that, but see, now here's again, I'm going to coach everybody. This doesn't happen because you're scrolling through your phone every night. It happened because you went, wait a minute. I guess she picked up on the Seinfeld.
So yeah, you did do your research.
I did do my research.
People usually want to know the least amount as possible about me. You want to know more, Ellie.
I want to go on and on and on and on. You're not going anywhere.
So I saw one morning at the time, I'm not sure where, I think she's on at 10 in the, I don't know when she's on now. Find it. You
Whatever.
can find the Drew Barrymore
Yeah.
show. But one day the road show had ended and we have monitors in our lobby at WPRI and the Drew Barrymore show was rolling and someone waves me over. It's, look, she's talking about your book. And I'm like, blown away.
Yeah.
And I got the footage later and I watched it. So the next day I went on the road show and I got right up and I said, Drew, I'm coming on your show, whether you like it or not.
See?
And I did my little act.
Right.
I'm
But
silly.
then you even followed up more because you
And
have
they-
sister stations and all that stuff.
Exactly.
You can't just let it go. And if
No.
you get a no, that's a more reason to keep trying.
If you
know?
do it, Ellie, in a respectful and
Yes.
professional way,
Yes.
and that has led to a lot of victories for me. But this particular one, they picked up on it. They contacted the station and they wanted Julie and me.
Fabulous.
I got to tell you,
Yep.
splitting your time in New York, and I had interned and lived there working for Letterman. I love the energy of the city, the bright lights, the studio lights, the excitement, the audience.
Yep.
When I walked into that studio and I saw the audience, and I had my own dressing room, my own car to the airport, to the train station, the hotel, I thought I deserved to be here. At that time, I'd already been on the road
Absolutely.
show for 10 years or whatever, and I thought I've earned this, and I had a blast. And not only did Julie and I go on the show, I got to interview her after. Drew stuck around, and I got to sit with her, and her team, did what Ron is doing here. But my point is,
They coughed?
Her, yeah, it was a tuberculosis fest. Drew's audience left. Actually, some of them might have stayed because I could hear the booing.
Bada bing.
And I remember we just sat there. And I did the intro, and I interviewed her right there on her
That's
set.
fabulous.
She was lovely.
Oh,
And we
she
had the
just
best
seems
time.
like the most sincere person. It was
Yeah, and
so,
I got some laughs out of her,
Oh.
and she was awesome. But it all comes from, like you said, you don't realize when you're in it that if you're going about things the right way, if you're saying please, you're saying
oh
thank
yeah,
you,
you
you're
can't be
being
an idiot.
respectful,
Yeah.
and you're putting in the effort, these things can happen. And that was just a really cool thing. And it's already a couple of years ago now. It seems impossible.
You make my mind explode because once again, you and we're so similar. Like when I have something on my mind, we came up during Katrina. There was a hurricane, and the Lance Armstrong bracelets that Live Strong. We did one for dogs, a collar that was Dogs Who Care, and all the money, $5 if you bought one, went
Beautiful.
to the animal shelters who were struggling to take in all these dogs that were, abandoned during Katrina. Well, fast forward, I had been on a cruise with an older gentleman and his wife who actually kind of adopted us as their second set of kids, or they didn't have kids. So where am I going with this? I'm going with this is that I called Jerry in LA. I was living in New York, and I said, I have these. How can I get some juice from it? He says, I'll call you right back. And this is the thing about older people. They do what they say they're going to do. There's not a kiss off. He called me back in a half an hour. He called the guy that he played tennis with at his country club and Culver City. And that person called his son, who was the executive producer of The Ellen Show.
Wow.
So guess who was on The Ellen Show?
Wow.
Pushing my collars and everything.
Awesome.
But so I'm not being competitive here, although it is kind of fun. We have a fun like back and forth. But I'm just trying to say is that it doesn't happen without you thinking about something and making it happen. Like you said, it has to be a very cautious, wonderful way that you're not, stepping on toes and everything. But
You have to.
unless you're housewives of New York.
Oh, you have to manifest it. That's that new
Can I look
buzzword.
it up in the dictionary?
That's one of the ones that everyone tells me. You got to manifest it.
So
Audrey
Ron-
always says that you need to manifest it, Brendan.
Who says that?
Audrey from
Oh
the
my
show.
God, that's so cute.
Audrey's great.
So, okay, so now,
I heard we're out of time.
I know, but wait, but maybe we can, hold
Let's
on a
keep
minute.
going. I'm only kidding.
I know, no, but anyway, so we did David okay, here's where we split.
Now we arm wrestle. No.
Yes, I know, I'm wrestling. I'm not good at that because my upper body strength, but here's where we split hairs.
All right.
Excuse me as I fix mine. Metallica, that's your
Yeah.
bit. Oh my God, that's like screaming. And I've watched your interviews and you
Saw
get
that.
life lessons and all that stuff from your favorite Hetfield.
James Hetfield.
And all that stuff and stuff. So I just wanted to show you because I can,
Uh-oh.
when
What
I was
did
on the
you
Bush
do?
cruise and otherwise too, I call this heavy metal for those watching. I have 2 spoons. I play the spoons.
I love
and
it.
every time I play the spoons, people, I do this whole thing. I go, it's heavy metal. And I thought that's the
Nice.
only way I can compete with you is
Well-
because that is, you to me are like more like Michael Bublé. You know, you are more like a Rat Pack kid. You're like an old soul. And when I heard Metallica, I go, oh my God, that's the exact antithesis. Tell me, what happened?
I love metal and hard rock. When I was about 10, 11 years old and really impressionable and starting to discover music, I heard Metallica and I fell in love with it. It moved me. I still get goosebumps about the first time I heard, their Black album, which was the most popular album of theirs, which had just been released. And I loved it. I fell in love with it. And at that time, they'd already been around like 10 years. And I had friends that were older, like, well, you got to go back and hear the early stuff, which I loved. I love
That's just crazy.
The energy, the passion, the riff. I love guitar-oriented, loud, thunderous, cacophonous, heavy music. I love it. It just fuels me. I love all music, though. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate all
but
creativity.
still, Metallica. And my research tells me 84 shows.
84 shows.
Wow, that is obsessive. That is just amazing. But if you love it and if you get some kind of connection to it, that's great. But I just never got into that. But I could get probably into every other. I'm such a music fan, and now I understand why you haven't had Ron over to your house, because he's a 3-time world champion ragtime piano player, the exact opposite of heavy metal.
Yeah, well, Metallica played with the San Francisco Symphony. They did a whole show where they had the orchestra with them.
I love that.
There are many symphonic elements within metal music. Well, we're not going to get too deep into the weeds here, but the melodies, the structure of songs, the tempos, the starts, the stops, the dynamics of music. There are many parallels, but I love metal. I love rock music. And I also love Bruce Springsteen, but Metallica, they have just been a constant in my life, and they're still doing it. And the way they conduct their organization, the way they run the band is endlessly fascinating and inspiring to me. The way Lars Ulrich, their drummer, he's the co-founder with James Hetfield, the way they do it, just their commitment, Ellie, to just being who they are and they're not going to change for anybody. They're going to do it artistically the way they want to do it. And that's something that I know that aligns with the way you think. And one of the ways you conduct yourself in terms of your production and your creativity and what you do. And that's the thing that I love the most, their authenticity. And you saw it at that interview I got with James Hetfield. I did it this past May, was like a crowning moment in my career.
I could just see you almost jumping out of your... And you made a comment that you said it wasn't in a prison because it was next to cinder blocks. But that's what you have to do. I worked in an arena. You take it wherever you can get it.
They put us in the bowels, if you will, of Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia this past May. Because when Metallica are touring, I go to multiple shows. I always plan a couple trips.
You are just crazy. All right, I'm going to make a promise to you. When I go for one of my runs...
You're not coming with me to Metallica.
No, I won't do that. I'm old school, but I will put on Metallica for one of my 3-mile runs to see if I can... Because you know what? As you get older, and this is my tip of the day, as you get older... I just read where Dick Van Dyke is turning 100, and one of his big things, they're interviewing him like crazy, is... Always say yes. Always open your eyes and your heart to new experiences.
Sure.
So the fact that you came on my podcast is a perfect example of that. But so I will listen to Metallica, and I'm trying to think of what you have to do for me. But no, I'll come up with something.
Yeah, you just do whatever it is that you want to do. But to be able to interview him was a big deal. And I've also interviewed Lars Ulrich, the drummer. That was a big deal. Kirk Hammett, lead guitar. And all I'm working on now is their bass player, Rob Trujillo. And I will have interviewed all 4 members of Metallica. So the reason I invoked earlier was this newfound appreciation that I'm having. If you told 18-year-old Brendan, not only will you work on the Letterman show and meet Dave and just be a part of the production team,
my hot throb.
You'll write the official Seinfeld cookbook. He'll co-author that.
Okay,
and you will
I'm
meet
checking them off.
and interview members of your favorite band. I would have looked at whomever was telling me this and said, this is a total farce. Get out of here. What are you smoking? But I think I've done all of those things.
And yet on your show, if I may say so, on your Wicked Late, you had a sign that said mistakes made and you had little checks and stuff.
Oh, the mistakes
so
count.
I think though you really worked hard at it. And even when you make a mistake, that's the key to Brendan Kirby.
God,
I have so many failures, but I think that's why I'm sitting in my kitchen table in my childhood home talking to you right now, is that I don't give up,
Well, you can't. And, I mentioned Michael Jordan earlier. There was that famous commercial where he just cites over and over all of his failures.
Really?
I have missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've missed this many, or 26 times I've been in trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. And he says, I have failed over and over and over again in my life. And then he says, and that is why I succeed. And it's one of the best commercials.
Nice.
The Nike ad from back in the day. And it's just that was never lost on me either, you know. And it's just this stuff, these people that kind of made me who I am as I get to be older than like they were at the time when I was becoming a fan of them, right? Isn't that weird?
Scary.
It just resonates even more. And I'm not going to stop being ambitious, but I am trying to take some time every now and then to really be appreciative of what I've done.
You're learning guitar. That's a whole nother podcast. But I'm back to playing piano. I've got my Jesus Christ Superstar songbook out because I used to be able to play that like no problem. Awesome. And now I'm back to doing it. And I'm just so grateful. Like you said, you know, if I take the dogs out, then I'm going to play a little bit of piano. You know, it just has to become part of your routine. Right. And you said that you took guitar lessons and it's becoming part of your routine.
I've been doing it now for 6 years. I love it. I'm not
Maybe
bad.
Metallica's going to have you on.
They don't need me. I was joking, you know, but I've actually,
I'm writing it down in my file here.
I'm not going to ruin a Metallica show. That ain't happening.
No.
I have actually written some songs though and performed them like on the road show. And that's another thing that I love about the road show is it affords me this blank canvas, right? Where I can do remember when you and Ron first came on and I wrote that little cold open?
We came on with Schmitty the Weather Dog. That cold open was hysterical.
Right. And but that's the outlet for me, right? Like that's where I wanted to be a writer for Letterman. I can now continue to be a writer. But writing is not just sitting and authoring a book. It's ideas. You know this.
8 years I did it. And I finally finished it. And so, you know, and that's kind of what fueled me to do the podcast is because now publishing is so different.
Sure.
You know, and you're not lucky you just did it. And Julie's had connect, you know, it's all about who you know, but it's also persistence and determination. Well, I'm writing about a former president and first lady and some of the issues that arose because of how close we became and why I went and, you know, did a whole excavation on my life. And yet I find that everybody's very touchy about, well, what if this happens or what if, like there's so many things going on. Everybody's so afraid of getting sued or getting this or getting that you have to do it yourself. So I said, you know what? It's all about an audience and it's all about if people like you and I have a book and it can't get published and, you know, you do your own. But guess what? Those people are going to support me. That's how the podcast came about.
Are the smoke detectors working in this house? Because this segment is on fire.
Oh, bada boom, bada. And my last question, and then we do have to finish up, is it's only been 5 hours. Is it seems like it. I'm only kidding.
I didn't even really need to be here, did I?
No. Did you get? You know, that's funny you say that because the guest, like I used to do 2 seasons of me telling stories because I got a ton of them in New York, and now by having guests, they tell their story and they help me to continue my story. So you are like my. Once again, doppelganger, spell it. But my question is, did the movie Wicked have to pay you royalties when they came out?
Oh, please.
Wicked, if you had trademarked Wickedly.
As David Letterman used to say, from your lips to God's ears. He would always say that. You know, I'm really proud of all the work I've done. It's been 20 years, and I was doing the math roadshow. I'm now up to, I've like hosted thousands of them now.
Thousands.
It's ridiculous.
And you know what? You add that element. Like, it's just so funny because all of you have your own personalities, but I love you. You're over at the table and you're self-deprecating. And so anybody who's listening, even if you're in New York, maybe you can get it on, is there a place YouTube?
You can follow us, you know, at the roadshow. You can follow me at Brendan Kirby TV. I do a lot of stuff on social, Instagram and whatnot, but our show live streams, you know, streams, roadshow.com. It's fun. It's live every day, 9 to 10. And you're right. I call that a little pulpit that I stand at.
It's the pulpit and it's the Kirby pulpit. And it's so entertaining. So everybody listen. And guess what? If you didn't get it by now because you're watching, but you can also listen to Shaking the Bushes wherever you listen to podcasts. And we are now on YouTube. Right now, and you can watch us, and you can see his adorable face and his great hairstyle. You know, he had to go use our trailer, our makeup trailer, you know, in the bathroom to fix his hair. But I'm the same way. Every time someone takes a picture, I go, "How's my bangs? How's my bangs?"
You got to.
So we have so much to us. Would you promise that you'll?
Ron.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so he doesn't choke to death. So would you please? Oh, he put down Kleenex on the table for those of you listening. But would you come back?
No.
Okay, fine. I knew that was going to be the answer. And
I would
and
be delighted, Ellie,
and let me tell you, my dog Pudge on my lap sleeping, maybe that's a sign too.
to wrap it up.
No, she's saying, I don't really care.
I thank you for having me.
Oh.
Against your better judgment, you invited me here, and I love what you're all about. You're so passionate, and you have a great energy about you, and I think what you do is terrific, and I give you a lot of credit.
Well, wait a minute. Let me go get my $5. But thank you, Brendan Kirby.
My pleasure. Thanks, Ellie.
Thanks for tuning into Shaking the Bushes. Thanks for watching the Shaking the Bushes podcast. And if you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Oh, and see that little bell there? You could click on that, and that will notify you for the next episode of Shaking the Bushes. Okay, I gotta go. And we never had this conversation.